Do you often find yourself wanting someone you can't have? Are you curious as to why you keep repeating this pattern when there's perfectly viable candidates out there for you that you're just not interested in? If so, you've come to the right place. That's the topic of today's video. What's up guys, I'm Emyli, head coach and co-founder at emlovz.com, and in 2012, I went on a 100-date experiment. Since then, I've been helping my clients find love fast with my coaching and matchmaking programs. And not only my clients, but also myself has wondered, why do I always want that person or want someone who I can't have? And I found this happened to me during my dating experiment where I was chasing after people who were totally emotionally unavailable. And I was completely blind to the people in front of me that were really, really great matches, great people, great men. I also see that happening in my friendships even today, and it's a sign that something is awry. So if you're seeing this in your own experience, it's definitely important to pay attention to. I'll give you a little bit about my story. So when I was doing the dating experiment, part of the reason why I wanted to do the dating experiment was because I was super hung up on one guy. He inspired me to understand why I was so bajiggity about him. And that's where I came up with this 100-date experiment. I wanted to know, partly why I had such strong feelings for him when I couldn't have him. I felt like this feeling I had inside of me of love, it was supposed to be fulfilled. But I found myself chasing, and never ever arriving, never getting into the relationship that I really wanted to be in. And so what I did was I went on 100 dates, and I went through the process that I teach my clients now of mega dating, which is dating in rapid succession so that you can get a lot of experience, learn who makes you feel good and who doesn't, and really get crystal clear on the patterns that are causing you success and the patterns that are causing you failure in your dating. And had I not done that, I would have thought that I was the problem. So I was always chasing the guy that I couldn't have, when all of these nice guys would be lined up around the block wanting to be my boyfriend, and I just wasn't interested. And currently I found that that is the case with friends. I find that I get into friendships with people who seem to be very available, and they'll text me all day long and we'll talk about all this deep stuff, and then out of the blue they'll just disappear. And I've worked with a therapist on that as well, and it really helped me to understand what was going on. So this is happening for you. Maybe my story will paint a picture, but basically what's happening is, in friendships, I'm attracting people who are not emotionally available. And that's because they feel familiar. So in childhood, I had a mom who was very emotionally unavailable because she had her own stuff that she was, working on. She was struggling with addiction. And so there were times when she would be very present and very available for me. And then there were times when she was just totally absent. And it was because she was hurting and going through her own thing. And in my mind, I made excuses for that. Like, I know that she's not available because she's hurting, or I know that she's not available because she's dealing with her own problems, but that still meant that I was in pain. That still meant that I didn't get the mom to show up for me the way I wanted to. And in friendships, that means that I tend to attract people who recreate this dynamic where they are sometimes available and then they're sometimes completely absent when I need them. And what has become clear to me recently that I wanted to share is, when we're wounded and we haven't healed these childhood things that have happened to us, we sometimes continue to replay the dynamic until we can heal it. And what I'm starting to see is, I attracted friends who reminded me of the dynamic I had with my mother. And mainly that's because I didn't know really any different. I've always reproduced this dynamic because my mother was my primary caregiver, and so that was how I learned to connect to women. That's how I learned to have relationships with others, was based on that one primary relationship. And it's only now that I'm starting to see that I need more than that in a friendship. And the same thing happens all the time in romantic relationships. And so a good practice that you can start doing that may help you if you're going through the same thing is called nonviolent communication. And there's 4 steps that you can use. You can do this in your dating, you can do this in your friendships. Chances are if you're experiencing it in one area of your life that it will cross over into others. It may even show up in the workplace. And so what you want to do is, part of it is also being a people pleaser. So if you are taught to just go with the flow and accommodate other people, but the other people in your life that you're accommodating were maybe struggling with some emotional issue, then you may have learned kind of a distorted way of being in the world. And so using nonviolent communication can really help. And the first step is to communicate what you're observing without judgment. So let's say, as an example, I'll give you my example. So I had a friend who, we were talking all the time, every single day. It really felt like we were close. We were becoming best friends. And then all of a sudden she went MIA. And it wasn't the first time she'd done it. She'd done it before. So I started seeing that that was a pattern. And I knew that she was hurting. And so in the past I'd made excuses, but to be honest, I really needed her at different times. I really needed her to be there for me in difficult things I was experiencing. And so working with my counselor, we learned how to communicate that to her. So when she did come back, like acting like, oh, everything's going to go back to the way it was, and we'll just pretend like I didn't totally ghost you for 3 months and all of that. I learned that I needed to communicate what I experienced. So the first step was communicating without judgment. So I said, hey, I noticed that there are times in our relationship when we're really close and we're really communicating well and we talk all day. And then there are other times in our friendship where I don't hear back from you for several days at a time, or I really don't hear from you for months at a time. Or when I reach out to you, it's really just one-sided. I'm the only one who's reaching out and you're maybe responding several days later with like a one-word answer. That's the first step, is I'm observing this. This is what I'm noticing. And this is something that you can do in dating too. If you find that you're dating someone who's all about you and then all of a sudden they like ghost you. So the first thing is, here's what I'm observing. The second thing is how it makes you feel. And you really want to talk about yourself, your own feelings, as opposed to what's very easy is for us to be like, you're being an asshole, you're being a dick, you made me feel like shit. But really it's more important that you use I statements. So I said to her, when that happens, it makes me feel abandoned and it triggers difficult feelings from childhood that I really don't want to feel anymore. And so when that happens, I feel sad and confused, like I did something wrong. And so I'm really focusing on how I'm feeling. The third step is to state what you need. So then what I stated to her was, I really need people in my life who are able to show up consistently. And if they're going through something difficult, they're able to communicate that with me so that I don't start thinking that I did something wrong. That's my need. I need people in my life to show up consistently. And just because you're expressing your needs doesn't mean the other person can accommodate those needs, but you're expressing them. You're learning to express them, and that's going to serve you in every relationship you have, whether that's the workplace, whether that's friendship, whether that's romantic relationship. It should help to serve you in that way. And then the fourth step is to make a request for what you need and want. So now I've communicated what I observed, how it made me feel, and what I need. Now I'm going to make a request to her that says, if I can make a request, I would love it if you could show up more consistently in our friendship. And if you're having a bad time or you're experiencing some pain in your life, that you communicate that with me, and that maybe you need a couple of weeks to yourself to really process and deal with what you're going through. But that way, at least I'll know what's going on. And also really just, I need somebody who's going to show up consistently in my life. I don't want to feel abandoned anymore. And communicating all of that, even just the process of becoming aware of it for myself and communicating with the other person is so healing right there, because you're really learning how to express your wants and needs. And often if you're in a dynamic like this, be it romantic, for friendship, or in the workplace, then that dynamic is probably in place because you're a little bit of a people pleaser. You you have allowed people to kind of walk all over you or treat you poorly because maybe you experienced poor treatment in childhood. Maybe you had a parent that was struggling with some emotional issue, and so you learned that the dynamic between people, that relationships for you were more one-sided, where you were maybe giving more than you were receiving, or you were like letting people off the hook more than you wanted to, and you weren't getting your needs met. And so if you're finding that you're not getting your needs met in any relationship, or that a lot of your relationships fizzle out after being really hot and heavy in the beginning, or that you feel a bit used in your relationships, then this is a really great practice to put into place. And you don't know what they're going to say. Some people are just not capable of giving you what you want and need. They're not capable of meeting your needs. But the process of getting clear on communicating them is the first step to realizing that your needs matter, and what you want is important. And then you start to be able to make a decision. Well, if this person is not able to give me what I want and need, then perhaps it's time for me to take a step back in this relationship and to really open my eyes to those around me that are emotionally available. And as you start to heal this in yourself, you'll start to naturally attract those people. So I hope this was helpful. If you've been struggling to try and figure out why you find yourself always wanting that person that you can't have, or always wanting someone that you can't have, really try this practice and see if it can help you a little bit more. Also, I would encourage you to try dating people who are emotionally available and just see how you feel. Sometimes we have it coded in our brain that, oh, that person is easy to get, so they must not be valuable. That person is clingy or needy, but really it's just we need to recalibrate into what does it look like to be attracted to somebody who is emotionally available and who can communicate authentically and maturely. And that is a process in and of itself. If you'd like more help with this, I would definitely encourage you to make a date and to start putting this into practice. And you can learn more about my coaching program and how it may be able to help you over at emlovz.com. If you think you may be a fit for coaching and you'd like to talk with me directly or a member of my team, you can book a new client session with us at emlovz.com/book. During that new client session, we'll talk about your dating goals, the obstacles holding you back, and how my coaching program may be a fit for you. That wraps up this video, guys. If you like this video, make sure to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave us a comment in the comments below. And follow us on social media. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.